Am I the only one a little bit disappointed by the features in the new Masters of the Universe Origins figures? Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I started collecting the He-Man Masters of the Universe Origins figures about a year ago. I waited a long time to get into it, to go down that rabbit hole, and I bought about 50 figures since then. And the biggest issue that I've had, aside from postage and delivery, was just justifying getting the figures, because so many of them are just like the original figures, except just extra articulation, like Jitsu here. Jitsu is one of my favorites, and I made a few exceptions like him and the original He-Man and Skeletor, because they're basically exact same figures. Like, the really only difference here, aside from the gold being much brighter, is the wrist thing, and that's it. And everything else is pretty much the exact same. So there's not a lot to justify. There's no alternative features, no alternative version, nothing additional, nothing extra. So that's been a bit of an issue. And then we get to characters like Cobra Khan, for example. Now, I was incredibly disappointed by Cobra Khan. I was expecting something. Now, this is obviously the original, and the new version is exactly the same. There's nothing added to him. I was expecting the alternative head with the big, I don't know what that is. The snake's, the skin sticks out on either side of the snake's head. I forgot what that's called. But I thought they'd have that, you know, an extra head with that. Something, but didn't get anything. And to make it worse, they removed the water feature, so he no longer sprays water out of his head. And I'm like, so you didn't add something, you actually removed something. Okay, you added articulation, but that's it. Then came Camo Khan. I'm like, okay, maybe they were saving it for him, because that's the head I wanted on the figure. Now, maybe they think you can just buy both and swap the heads over and have one head between the two. Or maybe buy two of him and then use the head on that one. I don't know. But he doesn't have any paintwork on his head to imply he's actually Camo Khan. So you can actually use the head for both, in theory, I guess. But yeah, I was really disappointed there. Now, another example was Whiplash. Now, I do apologise for not having a proper studio space and being quite clumsy moving these around. But I don't normally do videos like this. I'm not Pixel Dan, I know that. Yeah, so originally I assumed they would make a thicker tail, because I always hated this skinny, thin tail you could see on the inside. You can see the little parts there, like up in here. They were all the way down into here. I cut them off, which helped a little bit, but I was never really happy with it. And I thought, why don't they make one with a solid tail? And then I thought they were doing it with this. And then I looked at it from a couple of pictures. I thought it's the same indented. I thought they'd just given it an inside mold, but it was still hollow. But then I actually saw some more pictures and realized, no, it is solid. It just doesn't bulk out here. It isn't full out here. It still recedes, but it is a sculpted tail. So I ended up getting him very late, because, like I said, I thought at first they hadn't made any changes, and I realized they had. So I was much happier with this, because aside from the thick tail, he looks exactly the same like Jitsu. It's exactly the same figure. Not even a different face. At least with Clawful. Clawful, same thing, exact same figure, does nothing different on you. But at least, I think his mouth was slightly different, or am I thinking of Beastman? I don't know. But now we get to the latest one, and you can hear him coming. Ratlor. I was really disappointed to find out Ratlor. They removed his function, his feature, which, where's the button? There. Hi. He's out of shot now. Okay, so they removed his neck. I mean, basically what you get is you get a little neck that you can add. Like, you pull his head off and you put a neck attachment in between, and it's not even red, because a lot of people argued that his neck should be red, because we've got red here, and the yellow scales are just on the chest. And they couldn't even give us like two necks, one red and one yellow, so you can choose which neck you want. So that's disappointing. So, okay, you may be able to visually reproduce the look of the extended neck, but you can't really, you know, it's not, the function's gone. I'm like, what, you've taken away, not added. And then to make things worse, add insult to injury, they've got the exact same tail. I was watching Pixel Dan's video, and he was showing the tail is exactly the same. So it's the same mistake that they made on the original Whiplash that they corrected. They went and made on Ratlor, and it's exactly the same problem. It does this. It pushes him forward. And I usually end up doing this so it gets out of the way. And they could have given us a solid sculpted tail that sat out like this, which would actually make him easier to stand. And, you know, I mean, it doesn't have the things sitting out here, but it's still hollow. And it just looks cheap. And I don't know why they'd repeat the same mistake. I thought the idea of this brand was to not just add articulation, but to add extra features or do alternatives and extras and, you know, versions we didn't have. So really disappointed by that. And the argument is, well, they have more articulation, like their waists can turn, like Cobra Khan's waist can turn. And I'm like, I think they still could have fit the neck function in there and the water spraying function in there and still had articulated waist somehow. There must have been some way to do it. But yeah, they haven't. So I'm just really disappointed. I'm not buying Ratlor. I'm not buying Cobra Khan. I'm not buying Clawful. There's a whole bunch I'm not buying because they add nothing except the basic articulation, which isn't even that great. Because one thing I did was I bought some of the figures, like I keep my Battle Armor He-Man and Battle Armor Skeletor in my Roton and Dragon Walker, and it was messing up their legs. And I thought, well, if I get the new Origins versions, I can put them in the vehicles and save the original figure's legs and still have them manned by the same people, basically. And then I tried to put them in. It was an absolute nightmare. It took forever. And I've lost his spear. It took forever to get He-Man into the Dragon Walker. I mean, I thought I was going to break him. I thought his legs were going to break. It was that bad. And I nearly gave up, but I kept going, and I did get him in. And then I tried to get Skeletor and Roton. I thought it'd be easier. It was harder. And he doesn't sit down. He sits up. Like you can see, there's like an inch between his butt and the bottom of Roton. So I was really disappointed. I was expecting, you know, this improved articulation, and they got less flexibility through the legs. So yeah, I don't know what to think about it, but it's certainly affecting which ones I'm going to buy. I'm not buying all of them. I'm not buying every one. I'm only buying ones that add something or do something different. If they take one thing away and put another thing in, that's kind of, you're still getting something and you've got the original, so you're not losing the original and its features or yeah. So I don't know, I just wanted to make a video about that because it annoyed me, and I saw other people talking about it, and they were very forgiving, and they weren't really talking about it. And I was surprised that people weren't sort of more annoyed that Ratlor's tail is this thin, exact replica of the original, which was actually a fault, because replicating mistakes in the originals isn't really adding anything or doing anything. So I don't know, I just want to do a video. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I'm sorry for how clumsy this was. It's my first attempt at doing a video with the setup that I've got now, because I don't have a proper studio. This is just the best I could do, and I still think the shot's a bit too low. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Bye.